just putting my LaCroix away, don't mind me. Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Blyle. I am the mom-in-chief of Champaign-Urbana. We're really excited to be here tonight with you, and we will introduce what we're doing, why we're here, and of course, what we're going to talk about in just a minute. But first, I just wanted to welcome all of you. It's been a little while since we've been chatting, and it's great to be back on Facebook Live. We hope that many of you will join us. We recognize that people are sometimes in the process of bedtime still, and I know that I just got a phone call 10 minutes ago. Where are you, Mom? Where are you? When are you going to be home? Anyway, I'm not going to be home anytime soon because I'm going to be chatting with all of you. So I am joined this evening by Mariah Madison of Nannyville, and we're going to learn all about Mariah and what she does, and but more importantly, we're going to pick her brain a little bit about some of the nuances of childcare, particularly home childcare, finding the right fit for your family. And so that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. We do want to refresh, for those of you who may not have chatted with us in the past, how this works. So we're pretty informal around here. We want you to feel free to ask questions. We'd love for you to wave and smile and let us know that you're out there. And if you comment, you'll be entered to win some amazing prizes. So Mariah, did you want to tell us what the prizes are?
4 free hours of babysitting and a $50 gift card to Mega, and that's for 3 families.
So yeah, I mean, date night, basically. It's a date night package.
When was the last time you've been on a date night?
Yeah, well, you guys can all feel free to answer that question. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of those kind of questions. Yeah. I know that when we post stuff about date night on questions or things on our Facebook page, a lot of people will be like, date night? What is date night? Yeah, and I mean, I totally get it, right? I mean, first of all, you know, date night can be expensive, and second of all, who's got time when you've got a busy family? So anyway, we'll talk a little bit about that, but really the topic of today's chat is really about summer. And I know that it might not look or feel like summer is in the air, especially today after I think it rained almost all day or most of the day. Mm-hmm. But believe it or not, summer is coming quick. And so this is the time of year where I know I get a little like, oh my gosh, did I sign them up in time? Or where do we need to be doing? Or who's going to be going when, where, and how are we going to manage all of this? So that's some of the things that we're going to talk about, especially, you know, summer can be challenging. You know, many of us might use sitters from the University of Illinois, or we might have had sitters who are in high school and maybe they're moving on, or maybe they're going somewhere else for the summer. So finding that the right balance and people who you can really trust with your family can be a delicate dance. So we're going to talk about that, and I'll stop talking housekeeping, but we often like to take a few minutes just to warm everybody up, let everybody kind of get in their jammies, get in their, you know, whatever you have to drink. I threw my LaCroix over there. It's not all that exciting, but yeah, maybe you guys will tell us what you're doing this evening while you're chatting with us. So we'd love to see that. But just a reminder, please, again, participate, chat with us. We want to hear from you. We want to know what's on your mind when it comes to childcare, whether it's summer childcare or otherwise. We want to know, you know, what are you thinking about? What are your concerns? And are there ways that maybe Mariah and her expertise can address that? But also, we know that this is a great community and that sometimes you guys all have ideas that you can share with one another. So we're more than happy to do that here as well. The chat will go by quickly. We will repost this again, so if you do need to step out of the room or take a break or whatever, just know that you'll be able to find whatever you needed once again. So again, if you do want to to join in and ask some questions and get involved, that will enter you for our amazing prize packages, and we'll keep going over that. So first, I do want to make sure that you all are familiar with Mariah and what she does. And so I will just say, on a personal note, I've gotten to know Mariah a little bit. You know, she's only been running her business for what? How long now?
9 months.
9 months. So that's basically like birthing a baby, not birthing a baby for 9 months, but carrying a baby. So her baby you're about to give birth now. No, I'm just kidding. She doesn't really actually have a baby, But, you know, she's been doing this for 9 months, but in that 9 months, she's accomplished so much, and she has made such an impact on our community already, and I'm really looking forward to see what you have to do next. So please tell us a little bit about yourself. I know that you were a college basketball player at Eastern who graduated in 3 years, by the way, so highly motivated, and graduated, went on to start your own business. But one of the things that I love about you is that you just love what you do, and you love to nanny, and that's really the foundation of your story. So I've talked a lot about you. Tell us about yourself.
So as you guys know, I founded Nannyville. I'm the executive director and placement coordinator, so I have 2 major roles. And the first one is, thank you for saying I look awesome, Jennifer. Okay, the first major role is recruiting and onboarding of our nannies and sitters. And the next one is the matchmaking process, which is connecting the families with the sitters. I've been a sitter for about 6 years now, and 3 years local here in the Champaign-Urbana community, and it's been awesome. When I was graduating from college, a lot of people were saying, okay, Mariah, let's get serious. What are you going to do? What's your career? And in my head, I'm like, I love being a nanny. This is what I love to do. I want to make this a career. So I took the steps to make that happen. And in 2016, I graduated from EIU with a bachelor's in science and business and started Nannyville. Yeah.
And so where did you get the idea for a service? So you said you wanted to make this a career. How did you decide that that's what you want to do? Did you model Nannyville after some other existing businesses, or kind of did you pick and choose sort of what you liked from other ones? How did that work?
I picked and choose. I'm a part of the International Nanny Association, and that's where nanny agency owners and nannies get together once a year to talk about all the tips and secrets of having a nanny agency and babysitting services. This far, no one here locally has combined a babysitting service with a nanny agency, and the babysitting is for date night and occasional, and a nanny agency kind of just finds you a nanny for your family, and that's it. There's no more support.
Okay, so you might want to go into that. So you mentioned that there's you know, so many people may not be familiar with that. I mean, I think people might be familiar with there's agencies out there. So like I'll hear from people like, oh, I found somebody on, you know, insert, you know, .com here or whatever. So I found somebody on this, but those aren't really nanny agencies. So what distinguishes a nanny agency, and of course Nannyville, from something like an online service?
Gotcha. So those are platforms where you have to do the work for yourself and sift through the applications. Nannyville is a babysitting service that specializes in connecting reliable, qualified caregivers with busy Champaign families, providing in-home, individualized care. So we have a membership that families enrolled in our babysitting membership have access to last-minute on-call care. So whether it's backup arrangements when your original childcare falls through, help on the weekend, unexpected sick days, we're here to help. We also have the program sitting for families who their childcare needs are focused around the balanced school year calendar.
So tell us a little bit about that. So let's say I become a member in your program and I just use you for backup care. How does that work then?
Membership starts as low as $40 a month.
Okay.
And with that, you get access to our pre-screened qualified sitters, and they're just at your call. Whenever you need us, we're there.
So we're going to ask you guys, before we get a little deeper into the matchmaking process and for you guys, how do you find the right fit for your family, for childcare, different childcare arrangements? We want to ask you a fun question. So, you know, we said, you know, tell us about it doesn't need to be date night. Maybe it was just a fun night you had out with some grown-ups. Maybe it was even with your family. So tell us about the last fun night out you had as grown-ups. So we use that term a lot around here, and everyone in my office where I work makes fun of me for using the term grown-ups all the time. So it's just kind of force of habit, I guess, at this point. So pardon us. So we do have our first question, and we want to answer, are all Nannyville service in-home?
So we do provide hotel care, which is a little bit different pricing, and we have event care, and we provide staffing for certain churches around town, but most of it is in-home care.
And so what would you say, why do clients come to you? What are some of the problems or challenges that you're solving through what you offer. So I guess what I mean by that is, in some cases, maybe there are children who have special needs, maybe there are parents who work odd hours. So what are, I guess I'm just curious, without compromising any of the privacy of your clients, what are just some of the special, reasons or the kind of the unique challenges that your service is addressing in our community?
Well, certain families, they have different schedules and the schedule may vary. And so it's hard to find an establishment that can work with their schedule. So I guess I provide the flexibility that families need, and it's individualized for families. So if you're looking for a nanny who can maybe be extra nurturing, more patient, we can offer that service.
Mm-hmm. So what is the process of matching a family with the right person for their children?
That's a good question. So the matchmaking process actually starts with an in-home consultation. So I'll come to your home and get to know your family and your unique needs, preferences, value, and parenting value so I can match you with an exceptional sitter. After we complete that in-home consultation, I'll start the search to look for a nanny for your family, or I'll pull for candidates that we may already have in the system. I'll schedule a pop-over. You get to meet them for about 45 minutes, and if all goes well, you guys are set to connect, and we provide ongoing support after that.
What do you mean by ongoing support?
So if there's any conflict, any issues, any cancellations you may need, we handle all the mediation in between.
And so what about things like background checks? Because I know that this has come up recently. I've seen people who think that a service may be providing that, but actually they're not. So is that something that you also handle or advise clients on?
Yes, so we're actually licensed by the Illinois Department of Labor, and we have a 7-step hiring process. It begins with an application, a phone interview, 3 reference checks, a face-to-face interview, a background interview, post-interview, and training afterwards. We use a consumer reporting agency for our background checks, and we do a background check, global terrorist check, sex offender registry, and a motorized vehicle check.
Wow, that's a lot.
We definitely cross our T's and dot our I's.
Okay. So I think that people have a lot of questions. I'm glad that you gave us that overview, and we're more than happy to answer any specific questions that you have about Nannyville. But I think we want to get into some more general questions, because you have definitely positioned yourself as sort of an expert in this field, and mainly because you actually are in the field. I mean, you are still an active nanny,
yes,
right?
I am.
So this is not just something that you're doing on the side. And you also work with a child who's, so you work with a couple of children who are young, and then you also work with a child on a regular basis that's a tween. So you kind of have a range of ages that you've worked with. So what do you think are some of the challenges of summer for parents? How do we address them, I guess, is what I want to say. So go ahead.
Well, Champaign-Urbana is such a transient town. Usually you use a college sitter, but they pretty much go back home after the school year. So I think that if you could maybe come up with a contact list, or because over the time of being here, you could create a list of sitters that you can kind of call on when you need help. So just going down that list, doing the job search, and ask trusted family members if they have anyone that can refer to you. They'll be here for the time being. And
so sometimes I think people have intermittent needs. So like, for instance, there's a lot of people in the community who they might go away for part of the summer, so they don't necessarily feel like they can offer somebody a job for the whole summer, and then maybe they feel like they can't get a sitter. Is that something that you've run across, and what would you say are some ways to kind of help with that?
That's something that I've definitely run across, and I honestly have to say that's one of the major reasons I started Nannyville, is to provide the reliable childcare, because it's really hard to find childcare if you're offering part-time or inconsistent hours. So with the way the Nannyville works is I'll find one sitter and I'll place them with different families, but those part-time hours add up to full-time hours, and she becomes happy with her job and very stable.
Well, that's great. So we know, I guess this is one question I guess we should have asked earlier, and you kind of gave a little bit of a distinction when you talked about this, but what is the difference between a nanny and a babysitter?
That is a good question.
And so it's funny because this actually came up, somebody, we get questions into Champaign Moms all the time. You guys may have seen them, and we answer them on our Facebook wall. And so, I've had instances where people have sent me a question using the word babysitter, but I think they actually mean the term nanny or vice versa, or, you know, so anyway, it's just kind of an interesting thing. Is there a distinction? To some people there might not be, but I'm curious what your answer to that
Sometimes
is.
I use them interchangeably, but if we want to be technical, a babysitter is someone who provides general supervision on an on-call basis, so there's no set schedule. If you're looking for a nanny provides consistent weekly schedule, and they also help with the upbringing and nurturing of the child.
And so when you're considering, when anyone is considering a nanny, whether it's through the resources that you provide or whether it's just on their own, you mentioned that nurturing. What are some of the characteristics that you think are even more important to have in what we're calling a nanny?
I think patience and being able to be adaptable, because things change all the time.
And go ahead.
Sorry. And you have to be able to adapt to certain situations. No one ever expects certain things to happen, but you have to be able to provide solutions to any conflicts that may arise.
Yeah. So I'm going to throw in a silly question here because I want to know, who is your favorite TV nanny? So that could be The Nanny. That could be Mary Poppins. So I actually had a nanny. I'm sure she's not watching because she's not on Facebook, but we actually did call her Mary Poppins because she was so amazing. But so we're throwing this question out to all of you. Tell us about your favorite fictional nanny. And as one way to answer our question, to get entered into our amazing prize package, which Mariah, remind us of the prize package.
4 free hours of babysitting and a $50 gift card to Amiga for 3 winning participants.
Yeah, so that's pretty amazing. So we're excited about that and hope that you guys will participate. I do see that we have a question, so that's a good segue while you guys are answering this. The question is, what about childcare for children with special needs? Are there any different qualifications, or I guess, do you require any sort of extra education for nannies or babysitters who are placed with children who have special needs?
Gotcha. First things first, for all of our sitters, we require that they have 2 years of professional childcare experience. When I do the in-home consultation, I get a chance to talk to the mom about her children and see what special qualifications we need for that sitter so we can recruit the right person. And I think that children with special needs, they all need different things, so it's about getting to the unique needs of the family.
Great. So, you know, we did mention that living in a college town can make things a little bit more challenging. What are some of the benefits, though, of living in a college town when it comes to sitters or finding a nanny?
A lot of students want to be a nanny or sitter. There's a high demand to be a nanny or sitter, and we've had so far over 100 applicants apply. And so they're out there. You just got to find them, and it's a little hard to maintain them, but they're definitely out there.
And so would you say that those people are in early childhood fields or education fields, or is it all over the place? I mean, I have one person who swears that the best babysitters are actually vet med students because they love animals. I don't know what the correlation is, but hey, you know what? She's had a great run with vet med students. So, so I'm curious if there's any patterns that you see of areas that they come from.
They're pretty much all over the place, and I don't turn away from them because I majored in business administration. And so it was nothing in my educational background that said that I was interested in being a nanny. I just knew that I loved it and I wanted to keep exploring more. So if you express an interest and have at least 2 years of childcare experience, then you're all good to go with us.
What are, this was a question for the audience. So I know many people will say, well, maybe it took them a while to have a babysitter. If they're lucky to have family around, that it took them a while to have a non-family babysitter. So I'm curious to the audience, I'm curious if you want to tell us some of the creative ways that you found a non-family babysitter. Maybe it's been a referral from somebody in your faith organization. Maybe it's been, my kids actually found one of our best sitters. She was a camp counselor.
You told me that story.
Yes. And so, don't doubt the kids when you're at summer camp and anyway, they found their own sitter. So yes, my kids are
They
extra.
can come work for us, actually.
Yes. So, and I have noticed this, like, I will see this if I ever see, we're in public and I'll see people interacting with my kids, and, you know, you can kind of tell when people are making a connection or whatever, and I'll even like say to somebody like, hey, do you babysit? I mean, even if they're a stranger, like you can just kind of tell like who really likes kids. So, so I'm curious, tell us some of the creative or ways that you have found awesome sitters. So tell us about that to the audience so you can be entered in. Also, we just kind of want to hear them because we think that that's a cool story, but we do want to get you guys entered in to win the prizes. So Mariah, I know that one thing people want to know probably is how much does all of this cost? How much do babysitters cost versus yes, versus nannies, you know, how much does this really cost?
So I like to start by saying that sometimes hiring help can seem intimidating with the price and your financials and budgets. Minimum wage starts at $8.25 per hour, so you definitely want to make that a starting point. I think that, well, I know the competitive salary here in Champaign-Urbana ranges anywhere from $10 to $20 an hour, depending on the job description. One thing that I always do as a nanny when I'm trying to evaluate a price point for a job, I say, would I be interested in this job? But as a family, I think you can ask yourself, what type of person does this job attract?
So what do you mean by that? I mean, I guess what are some of the variations that people might be looking for? I know that when we had a nanny, you know, one of the reasons why, or things that she did, we had a baby at the time. So she was, the baby was sleeping. We would ask her, oh, can you fold laundry or can you load the dishwasher? Some very light housework. It wasn't, So is that the kind of thing that you're talking about? Or is it how many kids are in the home, what their ages are they potty trained? I mean, I guess there's a lot of factors, right?
There are a lot of factors. I can tell you the price range for Nannyville. For 1 to 2 children, it's $15 an hour. For 3 to 4, it's $17 an hour. And that's pretty much the going professional rate for a sitter.
Mm-hmm. So somebody said they've never had a non-family sitter, so that's why they're joining us tonight. But I'm sure some of you out there have some interesting stories about how you might have stumbled upon that amazing sitter or nanny in your life. So, so we want to know, to the audience actually, so you mentioned pricing, what do you think is the going rate for, I guess, a sitter in this case? We'll focus on that. And I know another topic that comes up often when, people are talking about sitters is, do you pay them the same rate when the children are awake versus when the children are asleep? Now, I don't know if you have an opinion on that or if your sitters have an opinion on that, but I do know that that's been a very hot topic on our Facebook page before.
I think my sitters would have an opinion on that. We're all connected in a Facebook group, so we all share and bond and do things in there. But usually when children are sleeping, the sitter's still on duty, they're still at work, so they still should be getting paid that same hourly wage.
Okay. And so we did sort of focus this on summer in particular. So do you think that summer is more challenging for a sitter because the kids are maybe they're at the pool, so there's safety issues, maybe you're expecting your sitter to be outside of the home, and there could be what do you have in your yard, what is out there? Maybe they're expected to take the kids away from the home more to the park, out for walks, etc. So what are some of those variations that people should consider when they're hiring a sitter in the summer, and some of the responsibilities that they may ask them to do?
I think that it's, as being a sitter, it's a little different because during the school year, you're probably an after school sitter. So you may see the children for 3 hours after school. But once the summer rolls around, you pretty much have them for the entire day. And that's when you kind of got to get nifty and creative and come up with different activities. I think that parents could definitely ask for housekeeping, dishes, light chores, but that's something that should be discussed with the sitter before you just kind of throw it in there. And I think definitely just having that mutual respect and maybe sitting down once a month to talk about expectations could definitely go a long way.
What is your policy? Do you have a policy, or do you let families set their policies about sitters using cell phones or using their mobile phones while they're at work?
I have a policy. So we have a babysitting basics training course where we go over all of these things. All of my sitters know that it's no cell phones while on duty. You can have your phone on ringer to get messages from the parent, but you should never be on your phone because looking away from a child for even just 1 second can be a big safety issue.
And is that something that you would also recommend to families when they're talking about expectations for sitters?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And is that something that's been a hard policy for people to adhere to? I mean, everybody kind of lives and dies by their phone, right? So
It has been a little tough, especially with the new generation. We are kind of glued to our phones. But I have had no complaints so far because I drill very heavy on that. I'm pretty much in the same age bracket as you, and if I can put my phone to the side just for a few hours, you can too.
Mm-hmm. So we'll ask you guys just a fun question. What are you looking forward to doing with your family this summer? I know that we talked a little bit about swimming. I know that our swimming content is coming out this week or next week on Champaign-Urbana.com. And so if you're interested in swim lessons or getting pool passes or swim team, which I know is very popular around here, all that stuff is getting ready to sign up. I know that people are really excited about baseball and softball. My kids started softball practice. I think Little League practice is underway. So all that kind of good stuff is happening. So we want to know if you guys want to comment what you're excited about to do with your family this summer. And Mariah, I want to know about what are you excited about to do this summer?
I actually may be traveling to Disney World with the family. Woo, exciting. My sister's having her first baby.
Oh, wow.
May 25th. And her baby shower is June 15th, so I'll be heading down to Chicago for then.
Yes.
And I'm thinking about hosting a summer camp for girls, a free summer camp, and maybe starting a non-for-profit, but
because you need more things to do?
That's definitely, because I can never just relax.
That is true. This might be the hardest working woman in Champaign-Urbana. I think she is. So she's pretty amazing. So I guess one question that has come up, and I know people might ask you, is how often does a family need to utilize a sitter in order to arrange care with Nannyville?
You simply just have to enroll in the babysitting membership, and that's $40 a month. And like I said, it gives you access to our sitters for when you need them.
So that's it.
That's it. It's just that simple.
And so there's no minimum of hours that need to be used?
Nope.
No. Oh, well, that's great. So as far as, you mentioned something that you might be traveling with a family.
Yes.
So is that something that you would have tips for families? So if you know of, or tips for how to handle that sort of arrangement. So what are your expectations? Does the sitter have their own room? Does the sitter have the nanny, I guess in this case, stay with the children? Like, how does that work? How does the payment arrangements go if they're, so are you paid on top of, for the hours that you're working, and in addition to of course they're paying your travel and your meals, I would assume. So how does that work? I'm curious.
I think that setting up the arrangement from that is pretty much between the family and the sitter. You can kind of negotiate what you feel is comfortable with. Usually I get paid hourly throughout, well, I'm usually with the children all day. And so I get paid hourly throughout the day, and then there's a flat fee when it's time for bedtime. And then food and everything is paid for.
Great. So are you excited about going back to Disney?
I am very excited, actually. And it's with a family that I love. They are my extended family. So it's like I'm going to Disneyland with my family, and can't wait to experience with them, and especially with the children. This will be their first time, and just to see the looks on their faces when they experience this, it's going to be so awesome.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So I know we're talking about the costs associated with this. Do you have what are some strategies for maybe to, keep costs under control when it comes to babysitting for families, so that, we have people who say they haven't had that date night, they haven't had that opportunity. So do you have some ideas around that?
I think the first thing you look towards is bartering with other moms. So if you have a schedule and you need care Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and a mom needs care Tuesday and Thursday, you guys can exchange times to make that happen. Another thing you can consider is a nanny share. And a nanny share is when when two families share a nanny for the same time intervals.
And is that something that you have brokered in the past? Because we've actually gotten that question quite a bit on the website, is how do I want to do a nanny share? How do I do that? I don't it's like first you have to find the family, then you have to find the other person. The other interesting thing that I've heard people navigate, and I just dropped my glasses, but I've heard people navigate is which home are they at, and that seems to me to be almost one of the most tricky questions to answer. So are these things that you've all
Yes,
dealt with?
And some people will say, okay, 1 week we'll be in your home, and the next week we'll be at this home, and it really depends on what the family wants.
Mm-hmm. So do you have maybe a favorite story of a time where you sort of made that perfect match for a family and how that worked?
I made a perfect match for a family, and it went to the back of my head, and I honestly didn't remember. I was just at the postpartum and pregnancy expo.
Oh, yes, and we were at that too.
Yes, you guys were there, and I saw Mindy.
Yeah.
And I was talking to the lady who was running the front desk, and I was trying to see how Nannyville can get connected and how we could support. And I was talking to this lady for 20 minutes, and then she says, Mariah, you are so awesome. Nannyville has helped my family so much. And then it clicked. I know you. I set you up with a nanny. And it just warmed my heart to, be able to provide that. And it was a laughing moment because I was talking to someone for 20 minutes and I hadn't recognized.
That's cute. So we do want to make sure we get your guys' questions answered about, maybe you have questions about the hiring process for a sitter. I know that that's something that I have done myself. It sounds like Mariah has a very prescriptive way that she is hiring sitters, but I think that we can all learn from that, the types of background checks. You mentioned that before, and if you guys have questions about background checks, and that is something that I do know of individuals doing, so it's not impossible to do that. So, definitely we have Mariah here. I think we've got another 30 minutes to go, so we do want to get your questions answered, but of course I have lots of questions for you, so you don't get off so easily. What is there an age range that you typically look for childcare services for? I mean, do you think that and I guess where I'm asking is, I guess every family is different, but are you being asked to provide, for instance, you mentioned the postpartum, are you being asked to provide like night nurses at all or things like that? Or is it more care for, professional, so parent 2-income families or what? I guess I'm just curious, or is there a specific age range that kind of comes up more often? Maybe that would indicate maybe there's a gap in services around here for those age groups, but I don't know. But I'm just curious. Or is it all over the map?
It is a little bit all over the map, but I think the biggest one will probably be after school care and dual income families.
And so why is that? Is that just, I know that I guess, after school care, maybe the kids have different activities or and the sitter can, drive the kids to different activities. Is that part of it, that they need somebody to manage lots of activities?
And if both families are working, typically they get off around 5 or 6. School is out usually in Champaign from 2 to 3, so they have that gap. Some kids don't like the after school programs, and so they would prefer to be with a sitter.
Okay. So we mentioned sitters driving. What sort of policies or procedures do you suggest for families who are looking to hire a sitter who they want to trust with to drive their children around town?
You definitely want to get that motorized vehicle check to see their driving record. You want to make sure they have insurance on their car and see their vehicle registration, and you want to see what type of insurance they have in case anything happens. And
so that the background check that you mentioned, what does that tell you? The vehicle one, like if they've been in accidents or if they have like speeding tickets. I'm just curious.
It shows that they've been in accidents, tickets, violations. She was speeding going 20 miles per hour. If you're getting tickets every month, you probably wouldn't want to hire that sitter to drive your children around.
Yeah. Any other things besides those checks? I mean, should the parents drive with that sitter themselves?
I would, if you feel comfortable, I would definitely have families check their car, make sure both of their turning signals work, heating, air conditioning in case of weather, weather changes here, and just make sure the car is fully functioning.
So, I'm curious from the audience, if they have any suggestions for, maybe we talked a little bit before about qualities that you think a nanny should have, more so, or even, a little bit distinguishing from a sitter. But I'm curious from you what sort of qualities you look for in a sitter, but I'm also curious from the audience about what is some of the qualities that you're looking for when you're hiring a sitter. So you guys can all answer that simultaneously. So what are some of the qualities that you're looking for in addition to all the professional experience and, you know, clean background checks, those kinds of things? What are some of those qualities that you're looking for, particularly in your babysitting pool?
Nannies who have a genuine love for working with children and who are passionate about it. People who are flexible. I pride myself on being very flexible, and I feel like it's brought me so far because that means you can adapt to any situation. And nannies that are nurturing.
So what are some of the unique qualities that maybe some of your sitters bring? I mean, I feel like in this 10, that's one of the benefits of working with students and child care providers, especially in the university community, but maybe even outside the university community, is that maybe they speak another language, or maybe are those the kind of candidates that you find yourself hiring as well? Or
yes, specifically we have a demand for that need, and then we try to hire people who are, like I said, patient, understanding, they have empathy, but I think patience is the biggest thing because sometimes children can do things and it's about how you handle that situation and showing them that you still love them no matter what happens, and to not get irritated, to have that passion for childcare, because if you're passionate about it, it's going to lead you to success and a successful nanny career.
What are some of the, you mentioned before about, you know, when we're talking about how to have a successful babysitter or successful relationship with your sitter. We talked a little bit about managing expectations, having meetings. What are some of the other things that you think are critical to kind of setting up a successful relationship between a sitter and a family?
I think before you even start that job search, knowing what you are looking for is the main thing in creating a job description and expectations based off that. So what are the duties that you expect this child care provider to provide? What are the personal and professional qualities you want her to embody? And then what educational requirements do you want her to have? You want someone that's filled with children, but you want someone who's a great role model as well.
So you keep saying her. So I know we've once we've had discussions about this, and I think one of our most popular articles ever was about the male babysitter. So do you have any male babysitters that are part of the Nannyville team? And I'm kind of curious about that, and I want to know what you guys think about babysitter experiences that you've had with sitters of either gender, and what are some of the benefits that might be sort of not so obvious to us for kind of shaking that up every now and again? So
we have interviewed some male sitters, and we have them in our pool of candidates, and we're looking to actually pull them out for the summertime because a lot of them have athletic backgrounds, and they are able to drive children from activities and play basketball and play football, and they bring something to the game that everyone doesn't necessarily have. It's something that's different. And I do want to mention that I went to the International Nanny Association conference. There was a room of about 1,000 people in there, and there was one nanny in the room. So this is something, finding a nanny it's out of the ordinary. Not a lot of men are wanting to do this. Maybe it's not an option yet, but I think having Nannyville around will encourage a lot of men to step up and explore this option.
Okay. Well, so what do you, I'm a little confused by this question, so I'm going to skip that one. But what do you think are some of the ways, if there was somebody who did want a nanny, so to speak, what would you think? What are some of the ways that you would write a job description to attract that kind of a person?
To attract a nanny, looking for someone with a strong character. I'm not 100% sure. It depends on what they were looking for. If it was someone with an athletic background who may have played football or basketball, who can lead their sons to be a better role model for their sons and be a male figure, a positive male figure in their life, I would probably word it somewhere like that.
So as far as, I guess this was a question that came up, and again, we do want you guys to pop up and ask questions. We want to hear what's on your mind when it comes to finding a good match for your family, with a babysitter? What does it take to have a good relationship between the family and the babysitter? I mean, Mariah's got lots and lots of experience, whether it's her own personal experience or through through Nannyville as a business. So feel free to pick her brain here, and we do want you to get your questions answered and participate. Again, if you do ask questions or leave a comment for us, you'll be entered to win our amazing prize package. Mariah, remind everyone the prize package.
4 free hours of babysitting and a $50 gift card to MEGA for 3 participants.
Excellent. So what about, do you provide resources for overnight sitters? Is that something that has come up with what you've done? And what does something like that look like? Is that a different kind of arrangement? Or is that something that, and also I would love to know what tips you have for families who might be in need of that kind of a resource for them to find someone who's a good fit for their family to stay with a child overnight.
Mm-hmm. I think that if you're looking for overnight care, I would most likely target college students because they are very flexible and don't mind sleeping somewhere else. And then
that's a good.
I like my bed. I like my bed. Okay. And you should also provide sleeping arrangements for them, and that should be in the expectations of the job description. We do provide overnight sitters, and like I said, we have a flat fee from 10 to 6 a.m. It's a $75 flat fee, so you don't pay that hourly wage while they're sleeping.
Uh-huh.
And then all the other hours around that is the sitter's regular hourly fee.
So what about best practices for setting up an arrangement with an overnight sitter? So what do you recommend to families who are wanting to try that out?
I recommend that you leave, we have a babysitting checklist that we give to each family, but you leave something with emergency contact numbers, bedtime routines, any medicine, allergies, or anything that they need to take. Leave it on the refrigerator and leave your contact information so parents can reach out to you if something happens or if they have a question they need to ask you.
Yeah, I think that sometimes do you feel that it's good to have a previous relationship before leaving a sitter overnight with children? I mean, like a trial or a tryout, or or just maybe it's a few hours so that they can get to know each other before that overnight.
Definitely, and I think that goes case by case as well. If you know your child has separation anxiety, you definitely want to have the sitter over a few times before you make that big commitment with an overnight sitting.
Yes. And what are some of the other, you mentioned that you all have done event sitting or that you work with some churches. So what would you say are some of the challenges of for families and how they prepare? I mean, I remember that I used to leave my baby at the gym for a long time, and of course she was very little. I didn't leave her for a long time. For a long time, she would not stay there because she hated it so much, and so I could never use the gym. But is there any tips or tricks? I guess the kids need to be a little bit older than a baby, but for leaving them in a situation where they may not know who the sitter is, or they may not be as familiar with that kind of child care arrangement.
So in our babysitting basics training course, we go over age-appropriate activities. So our sitters are trained to engage with the children, to try to capture their interest with games and maybe, fun activities that can capture their attention and make them feel comfortable and make them feel safe, in different ways to approach children. And sometimes children won't be as warm and fuzzy in the beginning, but it just takes time. You don't have to continue to, hey, I need your attention. Over time, they'll feel more comfortable and they'll come around.
How do your sitters feel about cooking for kids or making food? Is that something that is negotiated with families, or is that something that's expected these days?
That's something that's pretty much expected. And while I say I'm not a major chef, I am a master pro at chicken nuggets and macaroni and cheese.
Do you have any chefs on yours? I mean, maybe that's like one of the hidden things. Can families request, hey, I want my kids to learn how to cook. Do you have any sitters who can cook?
Definitely. That's something you can definitely request, and I will not be there to fill that one up because
Okay, you won't be getting Mariah.
You won't get me.
Yeah.
I'm the patient one.
Yeah, mac and cheese and
mac and cheese.
Yes, definitely all the mac and cheese you'd ever want. So what's your favorite? We want to know, now that we've talked about mac and cheese, What's your all favorite mac and cheese? I cannot tell you how often that topic comes up.
Mm-hmm.
What are people's favorite mac and cheese? I don't know why. It's just an easy one to talk about. But so you guys want to answer that fun question? Yes. Mindy says it's from Logic. So
I haven't tried it yet.
oh,
I
you'll
always
have to
make the
try it.
box of Annie's organic mac and cheese.
Annie's
At least it's organic.
yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we like the secret one is that I discovered, so my kids for a while were obsessed with this organic. It's like the generic brand at Meijer, white shells, and yeah, totally organic. And then one day I realized that the same exact product is at Aldi for like 50 cents a box cheaper. It's literally the exact same product.
Mm-hmm.
The directions are the same. So anyway, like I even put them up next to one another. So yeah, so there we go. So now I buy the organic white shells mac and cheese at Aldi, and that's my kid's favorite. So tell us your favorite mac and cheese. Maybe you could go to eat someplace fancy like Jamaica. So yeah, so we do want to get your questions answered before we leave tonight. One of the things that we did talk a little bit earlier about is travel. Mm-hmm. And one question I have for you, and you answered that here you provide hotel. So question is, if I have a friend who's coming in from out of town, maybe it's for an event that I'm doing and they need a sitter, and so they should call you. And is that something that if we are going out of town, are there other agencies like yours and other communities where we could trust to find a sitter for our families? So what is that like?
Definitely. So like I said, we meet once a year for the conference, and I gained a lot of friends there. I actually had a friend from North Carolina fly down and help me set up Nannyville in the beginning. And so we're pretty much well connected. So if you're traveling anywhere, of course, I can help you find the best babysitters around.
Yeah, awesome. So now you guys know this is a hot tip if you're traveling. Okay, Hickory River is a good favorite Kraft.
I like Kraft.
My kids agree with the Kraft, and all of you should know by now that Kraft mac and cheese is made right here in Champaign. So that should be a point of pride for all of us. But yes, I do like this idea about the getting the sitter when you travel. Sometimes, we forget that, it's fun to travel as a family, but sometimes with all that together time, you need a little space. So I do like that. So speaking of travel, Mariah mentioned that she's going to Disney this summer. We want to know, where are you guys planning to go this summer, whether it's just up the road to grandma's house or whether you're taking off around the world. Feel free to answer that question as well. So we have gone through what is a nanny. We've gone through what is a sitter. We have gone through best practices of how to engage a sitter, how to keep a sitter. So that actually that's one thing we haven't really talked about. How do you keep a sitter as long as possible? What are some of the best tips that you have? Is it paying them more? Is it providing them with maybe different opportunities to, maybe it's going out with your family? What are some of the ways that you recommend that for people to retain good sitters?
I think that increasing their salary, every year would help. But I think the main thing is just showing appreciation. I can't tell you how many thank you cards I have had from families. And the major thing that I always see in there that brings to my heart is, we love you, we love you, we love you. It warms my heart. And I remember my very first summer job, I worked with these boys, and I was probably like 18 years old, making probably $10 an hour. And at the end, the mom brought me this Coach purse because I had this tattered purse I would wear every day that was from Walmart. She brought me a Coach purse and wrote me a thank you card, and I just started crying right there.
Yeah. And
I still keep in touch with that family till this day.
That's nice. Is there any sort of unique relationships, or maybe from families, like maybe the family has helped a sitter get a professional job after they were done nannying or things like that? Have you ever come across that in your experience? I guess you've only been doing Nannyville for 9 months, so maybe not yet, but someday in the future, right?
I have definitely come across that.
Yeah,
definitely. But for the sake of confidentiality, I don't want to necessarily disclose.
Yeah. That's great. But so what do you think is how do you think that Champaign-Urbana is as a market overall for sitters?
I think the market is pretty good. Like I said, sitters are always moving and going, but there's a lot of sitters here. You just have to have the time to be able to sift through those applications and find the right person.
Do you have any recommendations? Of course, Nannyville is, of course, where we want
Number
people
one.
to go. Number one, to find a sitter, but other places, we did ask people to share some of the more unique ways that they've found sitters. But since we can't read every comment on air, I'd like to know, what are some of the places that you've heard about where people have found really good sitters?
I think first things first, do not recreate the wheel if you do not have to. And I usually do that, so I'm giving you advice that I should probably be giving to myself. But you should look to people who your children are already connected with. Maybe it's a assistant teacher, a daycare advisor, a student aide, maybe someone who works at your church or anything like that. And then ask trusted family members and friends, who do they use and can you use their person? Now, some families may not share with you. Don't be upset.
Yes.
It's hard to find good sitters. Maybe you have to find your own, but if you do have to do that job search, you can definitely do it. You just have to set the job description and what you're looking for and go for it.
Mm-hmm. So we've talked a little bit about, sitters being mainly in college. And I know that, my daughter is 13 and she has expressed interest. So do you have any advice for, those teenagers who are interested in becoming babysitters? So how should they go about doing that? Are there courses that they can take or trainings that they can do? And also to the parents of those teenagers, do you have any tips for them as to how? I mean, to me, honestly, I know that I was babysitting when I was 13. I mean, I want to know for those of you who out there babysat when they were a teenager, how old were you? What were the ages of the kids? I mean, I know I did that, but it's like kind of like I look at my kid and I was like, she's old enough to babysit. Like, it just seems so odd to me, right? I mean, whereas it was so natural when I was that age. So what advice do you have? What trainings might be out there, and how do we handle that as parents of those would-be babysitters?
So they have a Safe Sitter training course, which is geared towards younger children, and you can find those courses with the Champaign Park District and with Parkland. You can also sign up for CPR, first aid, and babysitting courses with Vital Education and Supply. You won't get certified, but it's geared towards children that age. And I also suggest you having them sign up maybe to be a mother's helper, so they don't have the whole responsibility of providing general supervision for children alone, but maybe helping the mom and learning from her and how she reacts around the children so they can learn those tips as well.
Mm-hmm. We had a tip here, why camp counselors make good sitters.
Definitely.
I found that camp counselors or school aides or things like that, because they're already inherently have gone through background checks. So that was like my parent hack, was that I kind of trusted the fact that if these people were hired in those kinds of situations, that they were working. So, but anyway, that they had gone through that background check. So that was my hack.
I started as a camp counselor, so.
Yeah, what were you camping with?
I was with the Chicago Park District.
Okay.
And I actually went to that camp, and once I got older, I worked at the camp. I enjoyed it.
And do you think that's a good experience for kids who want to break into babysitting then? I mean, you seem to be a good product of that.
Definitely. You learn so many activities and get to engage with the children.
And they're not the only one who's responsible at that time then.
Mm-hmm.
So we're about to wrap up here. I know the hour has gone pretty quickly. We have been talking about summer childcare. We've also talked about just in general what the difference is between a nanny and a sitter. We talked about some, what's the going rate for a sitter. So you can find all that information in our chat. We hope that you have enjoyed the chat and have had some opportunity to kind of chat with each other, because we think that that's just as important as chatting with us. We do want to make sure that everyone gets their questions answered, but we do know that Mariah is a great resource, so we would encourage you to check out her services, check out Nannyville, and again, for some people who might not have been with us the entire time or earlier, because it's been a while since we really described what Nannyville is. If you want to just do it again for those who may have joined us late, and how they can get in touch with you.
Awesome. So Nannyville is a babysitting service that specializes in connecting reliable, qualified caregivers with busy Champaign-Urbana families. We provide individualized in-home childcare for families. If you want to reach out to me, you can go to our website at www.nannyville-cu.com, or you can email me personally at mariah@nannyville-cu.com.
And I think we'll probably put that in the notes here too, so that people can see your website and that they know how to email you. But is those the two best ways to reach out to you then?
Mm-hmm.
Great. And so what would you say are for your sitters for summer childcare? Is this the time to be doing this? I mean,
it is definitely the time to be doing this. We have a program sitting where we find sitters for the summer, and it's actually open now till the end of May.
Okay, so open till the end of May. So what does that mean? I mean, what does the program entail?
So you register your family, and by the end of May, I start looking, and you'll have your sitters for June to August before the school year closes out.
So, and that's for any area school district, or is it just for Champaign-Urbana, or how far?
15-mile radius.
15-mile radius.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for you families who are in Muhammad, or where else have you placed sitters?
Joseph.
St. Joseph,
Mm-hmm.
okay. St. Joseph, probably Tolono. I'm trying to think, I'm blanking out here, but you guys can all tell me where you live. So that's good to know. So just wanted to repeat that so that Mariah has a program where they will help you find your summer sitter. So, but you might want to act now so that she has plenty of time to find you that person. So that is really good to know, and we are so appreciative of your time tonight. We've really enjoyed this chat and getting to know you and what you're doing, and we think that you have added such a valuable service here. I know that this is going to sound like grumpy old lady commentary, but I feel like there are so many more opportunities and wonderful places where you can find childcare these days, whether it's your service, whether it's some of the other things that have popped up in town for part-time childcare, things like that, that this is kind of a great time to be a parent of a young child in Champaign-Urbana, and there are a lot of resources. No, we're not always trying to pass off our kids to other people, but the reality is that we work, and that we work hard, and that oftentimes we just need a break. And that's not such a bad thing. So do yourself a favor, acknowledge that you sometimes need a break, and that's okay, and that's healthy for you as a parent. So we appreciate everyone's time tonight. We do want to announce our winners, Maggie Donnelly Kelly, Rachel Carson, and Melissa Vessel. You all are the winners of
4 free hours of babysitting and a $50 gift card to Miga.
And if you don't like Miga, you can always give that gift card to me. So I don't know why you wouldn't like it, but so awesome. Sushi, great place for a grown-up night out, and we really appreciate that, and I'm sure all of you. So to get your prizes, because I know that we will be asked that, is that you need to email Mindy. Mindy will put her email address at the end of the chat, so you can get to it, but it's eventscoordinator@chambanamoms.com. Or you can just email editor@chambanamoms.com, and we will certainly get you connected with Mindy, since her email is a little more of a mouthful. So, it's Mindy@chambanamoms.com. I should probably know that. Why does the events coordinator one show up in my phone when I put you in there? Anyway, thank you all so much. It is almost 9:30, and I think it's time for our bedtime, right?
It is.
So do you have to nanny tomorrow?
I do, 6:30 in the morning.
Okay, so we need to get Mariah to bed. So you guys will all agree with us again. Thank you so much to everyone. Remind us how to get in touch with you.
Our website is www.nannyville-cu.com, or you can email me at mariah@nannyville-cu.com.
All right, good night, everyone.
Good
Thanks
night.
so much.